Boys and men, welcome to the Men on Purpose podcast. Zach Dean here with the one and only Jackson Salas Kastilio. I'm so excited to interview you, bro. Thank you so much for jumping on. Can you hear me?
I can hear you loud and clear. It's a pleasure to be here with you.
Amazing. I'm so pumped for this. For those who don't know Jackson, get ready for one of the most amazing podcasts. I'm so excited to pick his brain and give you guys some practical strategies that you guys can implement today on helping you live a life
Mm.
on purpose. So, who is Jackson? He's a renowned facilitator and professional dancer who founded the transformational dance movement, which is known as TD, a style that integrates dance, team building, human connection, and intentional transformation. He has attended 250 workshops. He's facilitated 250 workshops under his belt for high profile clients such as Mind Valley, Envision Festival, Dr. Joe Dispenza, just to name a few. So Jackson has curated overwhelmingly positive experiences for audiences of all ages, from corporate clients to homeschool students. He is also the vibes director and structural steward for Humans I Trust, a tribe of soulmates coming together to play, build, and create intergenerational wealth. I love that. As a professional dancer and rapper, Jackson has performed for prominent organizations, music videos, and festivals. His music merges powerful messages from banging beats to inspiring change. Jackson embodies the Kung Fu Panda philosophy that there is no secret ingredient, it's just you, emphasizing that our unique flavor can make all the difference in the world. We're going to talk about a couple of key topics today, guys. We're going to transformational dance and movement, emotional intelligence. We're going to talk about being a man on purpose. We're going to talk about his program as well that he's recently launched: spirituality, health and money, relationships, social media, sex, porn, semen retention, possibly communication and qigong, just to name a couple of topics. So we're going to flow. We're going to have a lot of fun here, guys. And yeah, let's just start off with your story, brother. Where did you come from? How did you come into this world?
Thank,
How are you doing what you're doing? So yeah.
Thanks for the introduction. And yeah, just presencing the listeners here. It's a pleasure to tune in with all of you, whether you're live watching the recording. And I'd love to answer that question. I have a kind of a unique story. I started born in the Rocky Mountains of Canada, and then I actually went over to the Torres Strait Islands and lived on a boat for several years, on a small boat through Papua New Guinea and the Solomon Islands. So I had a really interesting upbringing in that sense and was exposed to a lot of different cultures, and that really started to shape me early on, which is probably where I got my love and passion from dance. You know, there was the sense of living on the water really does keep you in touch with nature and the elements. And so after I graduated high school, I was working on a cruise ship, and I was like, man, I want to dance. And so I didn't actually know how to start, how to begin, other than just self-taught. I just put some headphones in after I finished a shift, and I would go up on the top deck and start dancing. And I loved it. I loved freestyle dancing. I loved exploring movements, and that's something that we have, in common, is a passion for movement. And so dance was one of those avenues where I get to express myself in a way where I wasn't restricted by something like in basketball. If you hit my arm, there's a foul. There's no fouls in dancing. There's no sense of like rules, or you're going to get kicked out for looking a certain way. And so in that sense, it felt like a very expansive space. And so I've really enjoyed like that self-taught journey where I would actually go out busking on the streets and kind of honing my craft in front of lots of people. And eventually people would come out to me and teach me how to dance, show me some dance moves. And I think that's how Zach and I actually met. I think he saw maybe a dance video of mine or something like that. And so that was having that question, like teach someone how to dance, is really interesting, to break that down, to go, how do I show you how to dance in a way where you're not just gonna copy me, or if you forget the dance moves, you feel like you can't dance. Like, how do we create a space, a permission slip where you start to become the dance teacher yourself? You start to look at like, hey, how do I actually get to know myself better and express that through music, and then express that through life? And so those were kind of the early stages of what Zach mentioned before, transformational dance, which is looking about how we use dance to transform not only our life, but who we are as a person, the way that we express ourselves in the world. And so, yeah, there's been many flows and ebbs. I mean, dance has been one of those things, team building. I've had the pleasure of facilitating many workshops for Dr. Joe Dispenza. We had him out a few years facilitating in the Sunshine Coast, the adventure side of his retreats, which was really, really cool. And yeah, there's elements of a big part of that journey was looking at, hang on a minute, what does it mean to be a man? And what does it mean to be on purpose? And so that is some great questions to contemplate. Like I am 26 now, right? And so my earlier years after graduating high school was filled with a bit of what does that look like and where do we turn to? And so I'd love to get into some of those topics today on this podcast and dive deep with the dear brother Zach. He's well versed in a lot of areas, so I think this is just going to be juicy.
For sure, for sure. I'm excited. So let's just, before we dive into those couple of juicy topics, I'd like to know from you dancing on the boat to then busking, and that's where I saw you on social media. Some of my friends tagged me in some of your posts, and I was just like, dude, this guy is is just so embodied and so grounded and just so comfortable and confident. And I think that was one of my biggest challenges growing up, transitioning, 18, 19
Mm,
years old to a young into, I guess, my early teens, was that my goal was to be confident in all scenarios. And I was like, I was
yes,
shy, I was recluse, I was like an introvert. And so that was one of my things. And then it was like, I would need alcohol or whatever to become confident to then go on the dance floor, so to speak. So how did you
right.
cultivate that confidence, and where did you go from the busking then into now doing your own program? Because I know that there's a lot of men out there who might have this amazing talent inside of them, but it's like, how do they
Sure.
present it to the world? So yeah, fill us in, bro.
Mm, great question. It was challenging. It didn't come naturally. I didn't start out just a confident young boy that was out and about. Busking was really improved my confidence. When I started, I was scared. I put a speaker down in the middle of the street and started playing music. And I actually, the first time I ever bust, I hid behind a pole. I was terrified. Like people were walking by and I started dancing and then I got too scared and I I just kind of hid behind a pole and people walking by and there was this music playing and no one was there. And I was like, oh gosh. So it actually took quite a few barriers to break through, you know, and a lot of it is right. How does someone perceive me? What are they gonna say? What is a person gonna think about me, right? A lot of this is an assumption of what other people are thinking about us. And so when I one of the things I thought of like if I just put myself out there enough, right? Repetition, shouldn't I get more confident? And to a degree, yes, that happened. But when we look at like confidence, we got to look at this aspect of being willing to fuck up in front of others, being willing to go, you know what? I'm okay with all of who I am. And that element creates the groundedness. That element goes, hey, I'm not always going to get it right, but I'm confident that I know myself to continue, that I know myself, even if I fall flat on my face, that I could even laugh at myself a little, that I could dust it off, that I could ace it on the dance floor or not ace it. And so being able to kind of look at that space of how do we become confident and comfortable accepting ourselves for all aspects. And so you asked like, how did that transition from busking on the streets to suddenly creating like a program for dance is just that there was people coming up to me saying, you're really embodied, you're grounded. I don't know. Like, I don't just go to a dance class and get confident all of a sudden. What's your secret? And so I was like, how do I show people the processes that I learned or the techniques and principles that helped bring out this creative aspect in me where I felt comfortable being confident in my expression and moving away from just filling people up with a bunch of dance moves and more about, hey, let me give you some tangible things where you're able to kind of overcome the barriers that you have, right? And those barriers are different for each person, you know? And so for one person, it might be, I can dance in front of a camera all day long. It's all good, you know? But as soon as some people are watching, like my friends from high school, I freeze up. or if it's that girl that I'm trying to impress, it freezes me up. So let's look at like, okay, cool. Then you have to look at it's more than just dance, it's an emotional aspect too. And so transformational dance was like that. That's what we were targeting. We're like, hey, I don't want you to just, learn how to dance. I want you to light up a room. I want you to feel like you could any song could come on and you could dance to any song. It wasn't like, oh, now just hip hop dance. And then if you're at a club and it's not playing hip hop music, you're like, ah, sorry, that's not me. I don't dance that way. Like that's not my style. It's like I want you to be able to go. It doesn't matter the song, doesn't matter the time of day, doesn't matter who's watching you, but there's that sense of like, you know what? I'm gonna put myself into this, and I'm gonna lean into that. And so that's a that's taken me many years to kind of distill what that looks like in terms of being able to teach that to someone and for them to use those processes and experiment with that, for them to become embodied in that and learn that themselves, right? Have the aha moment themselves. I find you can't really give someone the aha moment. They've got to kind of you can set up the conditions for it, but it's ultimately them that discovers the aha moment.
I think you touched upon a really important point there, which was leaning in. I think it sounds like your emotional mastery with that, your relationship with the emotions of rejection or being seen or being heard or,
Yes.
getting in the way or whatever these things are that we kind of have as we grow up and so domesticated these days. But you started to lean in, and my favorite saying is like when we lean in, we win. But it is uncomfortable. And
Yes.
when we lean out, we miss out. So what it sounds like is you started to change your relationship with that uncomfortable feeling, which was in the beginning, bit of practice, throwing yourself in the deep end. But what the main um, concept was changing how you were perceived by others, your perception of how you were perceived by others. And
Exactly.
so, how did you start to expand that? Because I know you talk a lot about emotional mastery now. Has that then helped you with your understandings and then your teachings of emotions and emotional mastery for other people?
Absolutely. So in
Mm.
dance, for me, a big part of transformational dance is storytelling, connecting emotionally when you dance, being able to express your emotions when you dance, right? What I notice, what captivates people, what stops them on the street, it isn't your flashy dance moves. Half the time, it is actually that you're telling a story or that they're able to connect to you emotionally, right? And so that's a big aspect, right? There's storytelling in dance through traditional indigenous cultures around the world where they would tell their stories of their knowledge of their people through dance. And there's an emotional aspect, a feeling to a dance as well, which is a great stomping ground for practicing this emotional mastery or emotional intelligence, which is phenomenal for men. Like it's a well worthwhile investment to look at emotional intelligence for all areas of life. So you mentioned a really good point when it came to the confidence thing was changing my relationship to rejection. One time I went out and I was at a men's workshop and they gave me a challenge during lunch. They said, they said it was a crazy challenge. For a lot of men, their challenge was to go dance on the street or sing in public. But for me, they knew for me that wasn't an edge. So it was a Preston Smiles workshop actually, and Unleash the Beast. And he goes to me, he goes, "Your challenge is to get something worth $10,000 and more, but without buying it. You got to get it from someone. You can't buy it off them. And so bring it back by the end of this hour and a half lunch break." And I was in the middle of Brisbane City. I was like, how do I get something like $10,000 or more? You know what? That's insane. And so I started, I jotted down some things and I started walking up to people. And I would just blatantly say, hey, look, I know this is going to sound crazy, but your iPhone, the latest iPhone that you have right now, would you be willing to just give it to me and just hold on? I'll hold on to it for a couple hours. It's for a certain experiment that I'm running. And I had many different approaches, but what started happening after the first like 5 or 10, I was getting rejected time after time after time. And you know what happens, Zach? My self-esteem and who I was as a person was diminishing. I was getting crushed inside. I was going like, man, this sucks. I don't think I can do this. And so you got like 10 rejections in, and I was feeling like shit. And I said, this aha moment happened in that. I was like, what if they're not rejecting me as a person. They're just rejecting my offer. And that changed everything. Because what I was doing is I was taking it on personally. I was going, these people are rejecting me as a person, right? And you can, whether you're dancing in public and they walk past when you're busking, they're not rejecting you as a person. They're rejecting your offer. If you have a cool product in your business and you message a bunch of people and you say, "Hey, would you like to, jump on a sales call or buy this product?" and they're not interested, they're not rejecting you personally. It's just your offer that you're putting out. And so for me, that was like, wow. After that, I changed the strategy and I did another couple of like conversations with people. And I went into a store and I asked the man in the store, I said, "Hey, will you give me this painting?" It was worth $20,000 actually. And I said, "I will put my wallet and phone down if I can hold on to this for the rest of the evening." And he was willing to go in for it, and it was a bit of a trade scenario, but I still could do it within the rules, and it put me on edge. And sure enough, by the end of lunch, I walked back with a $20,000 painting, and it was a phenomenal painting by this indigenous artist. Wow! And I remember that was the lesson I took away from that was this relationship around rejection.
Oof. I'm just sitting there sweating. I'm sitting there sweating, listening to this story of like, wow, dude, what a powerful story and what a great embodied lesson. And I just recently did Preston's and Lexi's event, the Bridge and then Extreme Leadership, and highly recommend their
Yeah,
work. So these
amazing.
challenges. So you achieved the goal, but really the real juicy reward was the fact that you changed your relationship with rejection. It sounds like you started to
Exactly.
embody a new a new feeling, a new association. You've conditioned a new association to
Yes,
rejection, and that's huge.
absolutely.
Did that help your dancing?
Absolutely.
Like, did that ripple into every area? Sure, it did.
It's funny because I already had that in dancing without me really naming it or being aware. But
Mm.
what this did help me was with every area of life, to business, to how I present myself, to public speaking, things like that. Social media is another great space, right? We're in a like men out there and boys or teenagers that are listening to this. We're in a really interesting time with the influx of how much we are connected and how much is out there and how much platforms we could utilize and use. And so, there's that element of being like, oh, did I get enough likes? Or did this thing I thought would get traction didn't get any traction? So in a way, there's the opportunity to deal with rejection in a lot of different ways out there. And so to kind of change that relationship early on is makes a big difference in putting yourself out there.
Absolutely. Yeah, it transcends into different areas. So your confidence with your dancing, and then that was your edge. So yeah, everyone at home listening, like, what is your edge? What is that one area that you'd like to grow in and expand your emotional mastery in, right? So for you, that rippled into social media. For me, sometimes like presenting and things like this can is kind of like a is has been a massive challenge for me, you know,
Yes.
rocking up, being consistent, interviewing, being present to these
Yes.
interviews. But there would be something elsewhere in my life. Like it's at a point now, I'm getting more confident with it. But it took me so long. And
Yes.
when I was 16, I was addicted to computer games, and I never asked a question in my whole high school. I never put my hand up. I never wanted to
Yes.
be seen. I didn't want to be seen as wrong. I didn't want that rejection. It wasn't from the teacher. It was from my peers. But I really, yeah, that those memories come back so much. So I use computer games as my escape from reality. And then my
Absolutely.
dad paid for my first acting classes because he was like, son, you need to sort out your inhibitions. Like, you need to get over your own ego. Go do some improv. And I was like, oh, yeah, okay. And that was
Got
a
it.
big
Totally.
edge for me at the time. But what I found is as I changed that relationship with rejection and fear of being seen, um, yeah, it changed every area of my life, and I started to show up more confidently in different areas. And but I had to, yeah, back then that was a massive edge, but now it becomes more unconscious competence. So that's where people see you now dancing with your partner, with your wife on
Exactly.
social media. And what you said before is like taking people into a story, these beautiful stories that
Yes.
you're dancing in, and also like um the emotion in that, not necessarily being perfect in the form,
Exactly.
but just being
Exactly.
as expressive and as connected to your own storytelling, and that's what's relating with
Exactly.
people. That's really landing for me.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. That's wonderful. And if you want to, whether it's addiction or break out of certain patterns, just to give an example for any of the fellas or men out there, for I think I was 20, yeah, I was 20 at the time, and what I noticed is that I was relying too heavily on alcohol and drugs and my phone when I would go out, right? At that time, 20 was a great time to go out in clubs, and I loved dancing and I loved socializing in that way. But I did notice that I had this tendency to spend a lot of money on alcohol, every now and then take some drugs. And if I wasn't, in a club and no one was around me being too social, I just pull out my phone and just and so one of the challenges, this is what you gotta do, people. You gotta get curious. You gotta throw yourself in some experiments, like a social experiment or a self-experiment. And so I talked to my buddy Konish, who was living with me, one of my best friends at the time. And I said, Konish, will you do this experiment with me? Will we go out every weekend, Saturday and Sunday, at the same kind of area and club strip that we go out to, but do it without any phone, any drugs, or any alcohol? And can we do that for like a month and just see what happens, right? You don't have to place expectations on yourself necessarily. I wasn't trying to go for some goal. I just wanted to see what happens. If you're getting curious in that way, whether it's video games or whatever it is. And for me, I was like, cool, let's see what happens. Same thing. First night, bombed it. It was terrible. I was like, I was like in the middle of this club, and I was like, I didn't know anyone. We purposely tried to separate ourselves at different times of the night so we could just be alone. And all I wanted to do was pull out a phone or like use some liquid courage for some drinks. And it was uncomfortable. It really was. It wasn't a great night. And Sunday wasn't a great night. The second weekend, we were getting pretty better. Like I had a few things where I could break into conversation with people. I noticed I could dance a little more in certain areas. But then I remember, and I'll never forget this for the rest of my life. The third weekend we tried it on that Saturday night. At that point in my life, I had the best night of my entire life, and I had no drugs, I had no alcohol, and I didn't have my phone on me. And I remember I was like, "This is it. I can tap into this now. I know the like circumstances or the abilities that I have within to go and have the bomb diggity night of my life without those substances." And so what that created was this self-reliance where I was like, I don't actually need those things. If I still want to have them, I can. But I mean, I haven't touched alcohol since. It's been 7 years now. But I know that a lot of times I go out and at a party or an event, and people do come up to me and ask, like, what drug are you on? Why are you having such a good time? And so that started from just that curious experiment. And so, yeah, I love that kind of playful ideation of what can we create that's an experiment where we just see what happens, like a scientist. I just want to observe. I just want to observe what takes place, right? And so that will take you out of a certain level of thinking and a certain way that you've been living your life and kind of throw you into something else. And then with the results, you can see if you want to keep it, discard it, take what's useful, et cetera, et cetera. But I really encourage that.
Yeah, the power of a social experiment. And it sounds like what you did to yourself was was like your own rites of passage. Like most no one has that challenge or that boundary when they go
Yes,
out. So you created
yes,
the environment. So that's a great one. It's like anyone at home that's like thinking, oh, well, I didn't have anyone around me or whatever excuses that come up. It's like, well, no, you create your own experience in whatever you're
yes,
going through right now, whether it's
absolutely.
school, or college, or dance, or drugs and alcohol. We can yeah, we can change that up to help you grow. So it sounds like you put yourself through a bit of a rites of passage. Have you? I know that you've been a part of many men's groups or men's circles for a long
Yes,
time, and what what is a men's circle? What is a men's group? For some people that
yes,
maybe don't even know about that. And then how has that impacted you
yes,
in your development?
yes. As I love that. And before I answer that question, if we were to just take that previous example, just to give you that one idea, that one experiment, since I haven't touched alcohol in 7 years, I've probably saved about $20,000 maybe.
Yeah, easy.
So just look at the ways that these things can have an impact on your life. and be kind to yourself along the way. If you don't like follow through with the experiment, if you crash and burn or you come back to ground zero, be kind to yourself. It's
Yeah.
okay. We're there to try it out. And so to answer your question, what's men's work? What's a men's circle? What does it mean to be a man? Same thing around that time. Actually, it was 2022. Yeah, 22. I was I was lost because I was like, I don't know what that means. I didn't have too many reference points. I have a few. I was blessed enough when I was younger to see a lot of rites of passage in like the island cultures that I traveled through on the boat. But now that I had kind of come through teenage years and being my 20s, I was like, I wanted to create that for myself. But first, I want to see what's out there. And so I went out, I was living at Sunshine Coast, Australia at the time, and I went out with a pen and paper and a little audio recording thing, and I just interviewed people, men on the street, and I just asked the same question to each man, what does it mean to be a man? And just see what they had to say. And I only did about over the 2 days, 40 or 50 interviews or so. They weren't long or anything. Like it was, people on this just randomly who were willing to say an answer. But that taught me a lot. It ignited a lot in me. I will never forget. I went into a tattoo parlor, and this big guy, tattoos up to his neck, comes in. He's like, "What can I sort you out with?" And I was like, "I'm not here for a tattoo. I just wanted to ask you a question. If you're cool to answer it, what does it mean to be a man?" And he kind of stops and he goes silent. And he says, "Look, son, you got to come out the back with me." And I was at that time, I was a little bit scared, but I trusted. I was like, "No, this is fine. I'm gonna be guy. I'm a big guy, but he's a bigger guy." And he starts breaking down. He just starts crying right there on the spot. He says, tears are flowing. And he says, "I've been asking myself that question for a very long time." He says, "I have 2 kids, I have a business, and yet I'm confused. I don't know these days. And I'm trying to find that answer." And genuinely, what I found from the answers I was getting from men were all over the place. They really were. Because our times have changed quite a bit, and our roles of being a man, from our elders or from rites of passages often get us informed into what it means to be a man. And so whether you grew up with a father or don't have a father, or you have some positive role models in your life for men, now sometimes there's these pseudo rites of passages where you just go to college and you enter a frat and you drink a bunch and have to go through some challenges, and that might teach you a few things, but maybe not the best examples there. And so when you think of a men's circle or men's work, it's really the intention is a bunch of men getting together to talk about this, talk about what it means to be a man, talk about the challenges or the positives or some of the things that they're shouldering, they're burdening themselves with, and realizing you're not alone in that. Whether it's from sexuality to going through work and career challenges to relationship issues to something that feels like motivation or positive. So it's kind of like the intention of, if you were to think in a very simplistic term, just being in a circle around the fire and having those conversations amongst other men in a basic form is like a men's circle.
What's going on, you purpose-driven human you? Thank you so much for checking out this interview. Zach Dean here. If you had any aha moments or questions, please put it into the comments. And while I have you here, I'd love to ask you a quick but powerful question. Do you ever dream about turning your passions and purpose into a business that helps people and makes a profit, but you don't have the energy or skill set or community or training to do so? Then listen up. I've actually created this. This has taken me 10 years of working with over 1,000 people in the health and wellness industry. I've created what's called the 28A Club. These are 28 actions of specific biohacks that give you the optimal energy, focus, and results in all areas based on quantum science and quantum biology. As you know, the frequencies in nature, when we align to them, allow us to become our fullest version. They allow us to become a high performer. When we disconnect from nature, we become a low performer, and it doesn't help to activate our purpose in life. And so if you'd like to download this is a free copy. Go to www.28a.club/join and you can download it, join the club of us high performers. And I look forward to seeing you in there. Really well put. Really well put. And it's so great that you did that interview. You did those interviews over those few days. Like that would have been such a powerful experience. Like, wow. I would say that would be, a practical exercise for anyone today. That sounds like something that anyone can do. Grab a couple of buddies and
Absolutely.
go do that. Like that, you know, um, that would be huge. And then, yeah, I think that what happened for you in that moment, I'm kind of having a little bit later in my life. I'm 33 now. A year ago, I watched a documentary, What is a Woman? And Matt Walsh asks
Right.
men and women, Jordan Peterson, doctors and therapists,
Sure.
transgender and not transgender, what is a woman? And most people couldn't answer it. But
Exactly.
they're, I was just amazed. And in America, in Australia, we're slightly sheltered from this conversation, which
Sure.
is a good thing. But I'm like, wow,
Mm.
Australia usually takes on the trends of America. So
Sure.
I was like,
Sure.
we are an example. I am an example to everyone around me. And when I have kids, and when we have kids, we are an example to them. So I was like, wow, I
Yes.
wanted to create this interview series to give people and men and boys transitioning into men, growing up into men, the opportunity to have these discussions with if they haven't been around them before. And I love what you said is that campfire effect, having those
Hmm.
conversations where I guess in
Hmm.
tribes we would have been in community, in community, and
Hmm.
now because there's so many, there's a fragmented family um, epidemic right
Yeah.
now. Then that's separating these important conversations. So yeah, what were some of the things that would be shared in these circles?
Hmm.
As or maybe some of the key questions that you guys went through. Like for me, I go to a men's group every Friday here or online, and that just helps me get my head clear, whatever stress I'm
Hmm.
going through that week, wins and what to be proud of and grateful for, but also struggles. I'm like, hey, I'm really struggling with this. I just need a bit of help. So, what was your
Hmm.
experience?
Yeah. So I led quite a few of men's groups and things like that. One workshop in particular that I did was it was a really big deep dive. It was shame and competition amongst men. And so before I talk about the kind of deeper layers of that workshop, I'd say in general though, other men's work circles that I've been a part of have been more of the accountability side of things. Hey, I'm gonna share what's something I learned this week, what was a win, what's something I'm struggling with, and what's something I want to hold myself to, what I want to grow or learn in. And I need my brothers to hold me accountable, to be able to say, hey, if there's a kink in my chainmail and I'm about to go to war and I can't see it, you'd be able to spot that for me and be like, hey, Jackson, let me fix that for you. Right? Let me show you what you're not seeing. And so in that sense, men's circles can be great to come together in accountability. They can be great to take off the crown, so to speak. If you're talking kings and queens, there's a point where a council of kings would take off their crown, where they're not the king right now. They're speaking as they are in the things that they're going through. So it's a great space for vulnerability, a great space for storytelling, for, like I said before, realizing, hey, maybe the problems or the struggles I might be facing where men can think like they got to do it on their own, actually other men have been through. And this is what makes a really good men's circle is if there's this diversity of age, right? There's a couple of older men in there in their 40s or 60s, or there's some men that are fathers, and if there's some younger fellas in there as well with some fresh perspectives, and you have this cross pollination between the ages and the generations of men, because each generation is a bit different, right? Each generation we're faced with new things. There's no generation of men right now like the one that I was born into, or the new ones that the young boys that are coming through in terms of the challenges that they're facing. And so it's not like the same story told each generation. It changes, right? And it's got to with the environment and the society that we're living in. And so for instance, just to give you an idea of some of the the material that we stepped into in the competition of shame workshop, like I basically got men up first thing, step in a circle if you've ever tried to commit suicide. All right, step out. Step into a circle if you've cheated on a partner before. Step in the circle if you've stolen something. starting to take away some of the shame that men might hold about the actions that they took. And what made this even more intense is with my sort of workshops that I was running back then. I don't do them anymore, and I might get back into it. Was I would have women witnessing the workshop, and I think that's really important for me because not participating, but just witnessing. And I think that's important because I think at this stage, there's kind of needs to be a bit of like men and women coming together to see what business is going on amongst them. Whereas sometimes what can happen is like the men will go to their men's workshops and they'll just hang out and do men's business. And then they won't kind of share what happens with their partners or like what's taking place. And I think sometimes, or the women, I think it's really important to let them in as well, let them know what's going on as well. And so yeah, we'd step in, we'd do that. We had like a full thing to do with body shame where we, I won't go into that piece, but we did a big one about competition versus collaboration, right? And that's fine. Healthy competition is great, but often there's a big piece out there for men where you walk to the room, and depending on where you're at in the stage of your journey, you look at a man, you go, "Holy crap, he's more of an alpha than me. I see him as a threat." Right? Or look at the way he's dancing, or look at the way he's more successful than me. And it creates this competition side of things where you look at your fellow men and brothers as threats or as people that you kind of want to see not do so well, right? Especially in high school for Australian boys in high school, there's this kind of cut you down culture, right? It's like I remember doing this rap circle with a bunch of high school boys. I've been a high school teacher in the past, and we were rapping. This one guy started rapping. He was doing really well, and you know what all his mates said? Cut him down, absolutely crushed him. And there's this cut it down culture, right? So looking at in that workshop, how do we move from competition into collaboration, into celebration of your fellow brother or a man that you just met, doing something, getting through something, being able to celebrate that or collaborate with them as opposed to seeing them as a threat.
Wow, so many important points there. So just on that last one there though. So how did you handle that situation with the boys after the rap battle? And did they unpack that, or is that just bullying? Because there's such an important piece there. It's like that's also happening in the real world, whether it's at work
Yeah,
or in a relationship or in the family. And it's like, yeah, there's this bagging out or teasing and throwing
exactly.
these things to bring down someone's, yeah, esteem, to take their esteem
Yes.
out. And when someone has no esteem,
Yes.
then they're less than you. So it's like cutting down the buildings around them so that they become the tallest building rather than
Exactly.
picking them up. So how did you handle that? Did they?
Yeah, it's it's interesting because
Yeah.
I actually I actually I spoke with him after one-on-one and spoke about the things I was mentioning to him is like you gotta teach your friends how you want to be treated. So if you let them cop you out like that, if you take that, and it's fine, there's banter. You have the awareness of when, but this wasn't banter. This was cutting them down. If you let them continue to take influence and dictate your kind of emotional experience or how you feel as a rapper, right? He was starting to take that in his head. He's like, I don't think I'm a good rapper. And I was like, I could clearly see you crush that. But what was happening is they were getting intimidated or they were feeling threatened that you were getting so good. So they were jabbing at you. And so you got to share it with your friends and share how you feel. Be like, hey, actually, I'm not okay with this. And as soon as you take a stand, it might seem scary and intimidating, but it's actually better to kind of take that stand and show your friends how you'd like to be treated. Friends, if they don't respect your wishes, if they don't want to treat you in a respectful way where you've communicated that, they're probably not you're going to be good friends to be with in the long run, right? And so in that sense, you kind of got to step out of the tribe that you think you're in and go to a new tribe. And it might be a bit of a alone time until you find those people, but that's okay. However, if you're the one that continues to let them do that and continues to take that on, the responsibility is on you. Don't sit there blaming them for that. Don't point the finger and go, well, the reason I'm not a good rapper is because Jimmy said this and David said this. It's like actually take a second to go, I'm responsible for sharing to my fellow brothers or friends or strangers how I'd like to be treated and in communicating that and taking a stand for myself, right? And that can be harder to do when the esteem is low. That can be harder to do when you've been bullied before. How do you find that courage? What do you look to for that?
And that's it. And that's where it can become an addiction, is that these social situations where people are bringing, well, I can speak from my experience, spending time with other people who are drinking, doing drugs, not going anywhere with their life. And I started to realize that I was stuck in, I guess, a men's circle and, just a circle of people, social circle, that if I looked at the trajectory of 5 years' time, 10 years' time, 20 years' time, if I kept doing the same things, I would be in the same position. And then I was
Mhm,
like, okay, I need to get out of this. This is not good. But it
mhm.
took me some time. I really, it was quite challenging because my need to be in community or in a state of social connection was so strong that I was
Yes.
willing to
Yes.
do these unhealthy habits for a period of time when I
Yes.
knew that they were wrong. It was like I was abusing my body and my mind and not respecting myself, blah blah blah. But the hardest part was actually leaving. I knew I had to leave. And so I started
Yes.
broth night. I started the cooking bone broth and veggie
Yes.
stew and bringing people
Amazing.
together as a safety, as a plan B out of the toxic group and whatnot. Now I'm still friends with some of them. I'm not friends with some of them, a lot of them, but I've now transitioned into a new identity where I believe that I'm deserving of another way of relating and another group of people. So yeah, if anyone's out there,
Mhm.
any of the boys or men or women out there, it's like so important that you start surrounding yourself with people that are also going to respect and support you and uplift you. Oh,
Mm.
that's a deep one there for me.
It is.
Feel that.
It is, and kudos to you for recognizing it's time to take that
Mm,
step. And like I said, at time it can be a bit lonely, but
mm,
know that so what Zach did really well there is he's like, I'm actually going to create something that I would like to experience and see who comes to that, right? Who's attracted to the same things that light me up. Broth night, it's got health, it's got connection, it's got community, it's got music, it's got a lot of aspects. And so maybe it starts small at the start, but then you attract all these people that are where it's like sound and frequency. This is a very vibrational, like a lot of what's behind everything is frequency. So in a sense, if you change that frequency, you change that, and to put it in lame terms, you change like the vibe that you're putting out there, right? Good vibes, negative vibes, whatever. If you are able to go, I've had enough of this. Thank you. If you're not willing to respect and treat me a certain way, and vice versa, I'm gonna go elsewhere. And that can push a lot of shame and a lot of guilt, like from coming way back to tribal times. If you were exiled out of the tribe, it's because you did something wrong, you don't belong, and that can bring those same things up. Being outside of the circle that you grew up with, or that you were your high school mates, or whatever it was, that's a challenging thing to go, I'm gonna leave that behind to discover something else. And I don't know what that looks like, but all I know is the people I'm around don't seem to inspire or spark or make me feel like I belong at home inside of myself. And the people that you leave behind or that you step away from, or whatever, there's not this sense of judgment, or that, it's just a different preference. I'm not sitting here pointing the finger that, alcohol or drugs or something that is like completely bad, and everyone should avoid it. Like, everyone's got a flow and a flavor. It's just understanding yourself better. I know for me, choosing not choosing those spaces really helps me, and I can be in those spaces around other people who love alcohol and love drugs, and that's fine as well. But I just have a certain preference and a tone, and that's really important to recognize inside of yourself. If you're coming back from your hangout sessions, or your circles or whatever, and you're drained, and you're feeling a little bit like, was that worth my time? Or, am I wasting my time here? That's a good thing to kind of evaluate yourself and know for a fact those people are out there. Zach knows for a fact now, without a shred of doubt, his people are out there. My people are out there, and you will belong, no matter how whack or like whatever interest you're in. There is a group of people that will be there, that are able to celebrate the same things and cherish the same things that you will cherish, and really uplift you. And it exists, especially in this day and age where we're so connected.
Yeah, absolutely. So many places to connect, for sure. Whether it's like, meetup.com or events that are out there. Yeah, I challenge my goal, my intention is that one new group event, networking event, something social every week, just to get me out
Yes.
there and connecting new people. And then I thought of, yeah, as you mentioned, yeah, just creating my own event or other events. So, but in the beginning, I didn't do that straight away. I was going to many events and collecting collecting amazing friends for a long time before I had that dive into
Exactly.
my own event. No, these are some really great points. Just reflecting right now, this is some juicy topics.
Mm,
So this is flowing really well.
absolutely.
I wanted to um I wanted to ask a question. So now you're married. Congratulations.
Yes. Thank you so much.
And not many of my friends are married, to be honest with you. And I really
Yes.
respect someone who has initiated that commitment and that covenant with their partner. So
Mm,
how's married life? And I guess transitioning from doing the men's work and hosting those events and all those learnings that you've embodied or experienced or continue to embody, um,
yes.
how have they played a part in now your marriage? Because I feel like it's my assumption that that would definitely help with a partnership, letting go of the
Mm,
shame or the guilt or the competition and the rejection, all these things
mm,
would
mm,
really help you with your emotional state. Is that right?
yes.
Mm.
Absolutely. The marriage has been phenomenal. If you're talking about some of the, uh, and this is just my personal opinion, if you want some of like the deepest work or personal growth or um, getting to know yourself is being in a relationship, a committed relationship. And I'm in the relationship of the marriage, but it could be just a regular boyfriend, girlfriend, partner situation. Because what a relationship does is it reveals many aspects of yourself, right? It's like a mirror. And if there's this unfuckwithable love, this unwavering love behind it, that no matter what, no matter the outcome, no matter the circumstances, whether we're together forever or if some 10 years from now we split apart, you will still be in my life and I'll still love you. That is like huge in the sense that you can then test the waters. You can then show all of yourself. You can then go, oh my, like for me, having this marriage has been the most revealing part of my journey, and to show parts that I didn't even know were there, to express myself in ways, to feel all sorts of layers and levels of emotions and breakthroughs and things where I clutch up and I put my walls up and I'm like, oh, this is too much. I can't deal with this right now. And then feeling the support and letting like there's this element in men's work where I could only get so far with men. Let's just put it that way. And then that has no top to it, by the way. But I'm just meaning there's a particular thing where a woman and particularly in love can bring something else out in a man that another man can't do, right? And I'm sure you may have heard this, like women that go like, yeah, I've got my guy friends, but there's just nothing like a woman and a woman catching up in a way. Like there's a certain element, like a woman and a woman bring something out versus a man and a man bringing something out, and then that polarity of a man and a woman together in that devoted relationship really is special. It is special, and so there's almost been this aspect of yes, the men's work has prepared me and laid some incredible foundations and some tools down, and I do have my brothers if I want to reach out to them, and then there's this aspect where whatever I had gathered, almost like it's like there's a certain like element of surrender, a certain level of like you're stepping into the unknown, and sometimes equipping yourself with too many tools or too many like ideologies or aspects of what you thought it means to be, a brother or a man. Sometimes you just need to let that fall away and embrace this like freshness of what this is teaching you now, right? And this is where I'm getting into the territory of biases, right? I've realized a lot about myself. I have a very clever mind, and I can do these clever mind Jedi tricks where sometimes I can even gaslight some people and reflect it back on them, or take myself in a different way and avoid things. And so being able to have this, I call it the arena. Me and my wife call it the arena. You know, if something's there and you can sense it, you're like, babe, do you need to step in the arena right now? Do we need to step? And we step in the arena and we just let it out. We're just like, whatever's there, whatever's, and this is where communication is really key, right? So if we're talking men's circles or men's groups, this is good because what are we doing as men? We're communicating with each other. We're talking about many things. And so practicing your communication skills is going to be great. It's going to be wonderful. Being held by another man, right? Being supported by another man, that's going to be wonderful too for your sense of well-being. And it's awesome, like, you know, a wife or a partner is going to feel amazing that you've got this connection with your brothers or with your elders. Like, they're not gonna, you know, I don't think they're gonna feel any sense of that being a bad thing. I think it's going to be a really healthy, encouraging thing, and it's gonna feel like, wow, that's awesome, babe. You know, keep at that. um so to I don't know if I've answered your question, but in a sense, yes, the men's work has prepared me and allowed me to step into this. I think it's the man I became has really helped to then attract in the woman to then get married in this way. And then when I stepped into marriage, it's like some things are just gotta melt away. You just gotta let them melt away and discover what's there. And only being in a relationship can teach you that. Only being in a marriage can teach you that. No amount of men's work could teach me that because it's man to man. It's not man to woman.
Yeah. Well, that's so I 100% agree with you. And what you just did there was kind of like you just went like this with your hands. It's just like that's just how it is. And it's just like before like the last say 6 years of you being in this men's work, so to say, or however many years it is, it's like you
Yeah.
were, and we continue to do this. It's like we're shaking off, we're cleaning our shoes at the door before we enter the house. And it's like there's these
Yes.
emotions that most people, everyone is going with the human experience thing. We hold on to anger, we hold on to sadness, shame,
Sure.
or we feel
Sure.
joy. Apparently, there's only like a
Yeah.
handful of emotions that we feel, and everything else is just an offspring of that. But it
Hmm.
sounds like what you've been through, your rites of passage that you've created or surrounded yourself with, has led you into this point where now you can, you know, initiate this beautiful partnership with your wife as well, who's I know is doing the
Absolutely.
work too. And I see you guys flourishing
Yes.
and your energy together, and the people that you're around when we caught up in Bali is just like beautiful, man. So it's just a great
Yeah. Thank you.
reminder. It's like sometimes you know some of the dudes out there, you guys might be like going through all the work and doing all the things but not really there yet. um but just know it might just be around the corner, and just know that shifting it
Hmm.
internally can shift it externally. I think a lot of people, as
Hmm.
you said, the biases, oh
Mm.
gosh, the biases or conditioning around, you know, what is attractive, you know, money, uh
Mm.
status, you know, receiving, loving, you know, all these things that are quite relevant for me that I'm practicing my own level of receiving. And as I start on my level
Hmm.
of my perceived like the value that I have, who I spend time with, right? My values as a man, my red flag,
Sure.
being aware of speaking my truth, being aware of where I'm bringing my baggage into a friendship or a partnership.
Sure.
There's a lot that kind of that's there, but it's just a reminder to everyone: is keep dusting your shoes off as we're entering the house, because it's a reflection. Do you feel this? Maybe this is the question: is do you feel that that work allowed you to be prepared for your wife today? And if you didn't do this work, would you have even met, or would you have even seen each other's value, or being able to love each other as
No,
much? You know what I'm saying?
if I didn't do this work, no, I wouldn't have been the man that I am today to, like I
Yeah.
said, attract or be able to um, even say yes to something like this. So, in the long and short, absolutely, this is integral. It's very important to, like, if we're talking personal growth, there's a different flavor among men's work, and there's a lot of men's work out there. It's a broad term. You know, it could be like a men's support hotline. There could be, you know, you go away on a week-long retreat or a weekend. I encourage, there's a few different spaces out there. Just some suggestions that are off the top of my head, like Sacred Sons. It's one in America. That's a phenomenal one. They have online stuff as well. If you go into like the Australia area, there's Mankind Project. There's heaps of different like local men's work spaces, and I'm sure if you just looked up, uh, some it's a like a workshop for men or something like that, there'll be something in your area, which is important. And go trial it out. Go see what you like. Go get some flavors and some tastes, and if if you're somewhere remote or if you're somewhere traveling a lot, you can do something online. Like I've got a group of just three of us brothers, and we're catching up like once a month, and we all live around the world, and yet that has been able to totally transform who I am as a man, and call in this relationship and say yes to this marriage, and sustain that in a loving, nourishing way. And that's that's a big part of it was that men's work. So yeah, absolutely.
Powerful, powerful. Oh, so good.
Absolutely.
Nourishing conversations for the soul.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yes. Yes. Mm. Yes.
So what's next? What's next for you? You've got this amazing program. I'd love to know a little bit about this program. I saw the website. It's
Yeah.
dancing is in our DNA. And even just last night,
Yeah. Absolutely.
as I read the website, I was like, last night I was here, I was making dinner, and I've been working all day. I was like a bit of a heaviness on my shoulders and just my posture. And I was like, oh, I just need to move. And I put a song on. Actually, it came on randomly just on my playlist. And I was like, oh, let me move to this. So I was like moving around and just, just getting the flow going and the circulation and moving. Because I've been back at the gym, so my body's a little bit sore. And I'm like, it feels good. And I just
Yes.
instantly, within like a couple of minutes, felt 100 times better. So
Great.
that's
Yeah.
it's so important. It's like the world that we live in today is not designed to help us um, feel healthy, feel grounded, feel purposeful, right? If we're looking at
Yes.
men on purpose,
Yes.
start creating that flow and energy internally and expressing that to the world and bringing the weather with us and not letting the weather
Mhm.
impact us. So dance
Mhm.
is something that I've consciously started to do more of, and it's so cool that you're
Mm.
actually teaching this. Um,
Yes.
Tell us a bit about this program.
Yes. The transformational dance started probably 2 years ago, and I've been doing workshops around the world and at festivals. And there's a 10-week course that I'd been running in person in Australia, and has now been taken over by my facilitators. They're running it in Australia now. And so I was like, okay, that 10-week course is very popular. It's our most popular experience. And I was like, let me bring that online so that anywhere around the world can do it. And so I created the online version of that 10-week course, and there's a community of dancers that are involved in that. What's really unique is along the way each year I'll probably update the course and add more videos and stuff. So people that have access to that will have access to that for many, many years. And so it's really just bringing the essence of transformational dance, being able to go. The beautiful thing is nowadays is dance is taking off. It's huge. You see it on social media. It's around the world. And if you feel at all like you're love dancing, you just want to like learn more of how to move and how to express yourself that isn't just like a choreography class, this is a great space for that. If you're someone that's like, I constantly see dancing and I want to step into it but I have no idea and I'm a bit intimidated, even better, it's great for that as well. Like no matter your experience of dance, this course will have something to offer for everyone at any stage in their journey. And I just really love it because it's it's probably 5 years of what I've been studying and researching and experimenting with just put into a course. So it's going to give you something very tangible to use each day and take home and apply for the rest of your life.
So within this, I feel like I got to do it, man. I think so. Should I do it with some friends? Should I like
Absolutely. The
what's
course is recommended. It's set
yeah.
up in a way you could do it solo if you want, but I actually recommend on the website, like if you buy the course, team up with a buddy, team up with a housemate, a friend, a partner, a stranger. Get someone involved because a lot of the processes and the exercises you can do with two people, and it works. It works because I said at the start, TD is a particular style where it combines human connection and like team building as well as dance and personal growth. So it combines that element of like, hey, how do I connect, with someone while I'm dancing, and how do we work together in that way? And so it's really important. I'd recommend if you were doing the course, if you could do it with someone that you would like to commit to with.
That would be awesome to do it in a group because I so like I've done a few events online, and the
Yeah,
other year I did the Tony Robbins UPW online. Nothing is as
cool.
good as doing it in person. But what I
Of
really enjoyed
course.
was during the breaks, during the transitions of the speakers, they had this movement program called Kinergy. Have you ever heard of it?
No, I haven't.
It was like just these primal movements. There was no like real, there was some music that they played, and they just had these just real primal movements and just real flowing movements that got me instantly back in
Yeah.
my body. Are those like I, what you were saying before is not really teaching the structure of dance, but more just like getting into the movement in your body to get
Yeah.
that circulation going, so to speak, or energy
Yeah,
going.
it's got the structures, it's got techniques,
Oh, cool.
and yeah, it gives you that as well. So that's in there. But one of the main things is it has processes. So processes are all like they're kind of like experimental learning that you do over time that will change the way that you dance. And so you get given all these processes that you do with another, and that's how it like starts to build, and it's kind of giving you like it's broken down into three pillars over 10 weeks. The first pillar is the foundational pillar, then it's the expressive pillar, and then it's the connection pillar. And the foundational pillar is like, what is dance? What kind of dancer do you want to be? How do you move? What is the difference between dance and movement? What are the different levels and speeds and aspects of dance in that way? And then the expressive pillar is like emotions, how you bring emotions through dance, how you story tell, how do you dance with objects? And then connection is like, how do you connect your dance to the world, to others? You know, dance gazing all the way to contact dance, moving through elements. Music video is a great process in there. That's a really fun one. But over time, you're having a great like time, and by the end, you're like, holy frick, I've got like there's a in the expressive pillar, it's called signature moves. So it actually breaks down how you can create your own signature dance moves and then like bring it out there to the world, which is super
Oh my
fun because
God, that's fun.
everyone likes it. Everyone likes having their few signature dance moves.
Well, this is the thing. It's like those moves that I used to practice in my bedroom before going out to the clubs.
Exactly,
It
man.
sounds like just having a few of these dance moves ready. There's nothing cooler, whether it's a dude or a woman on the dance floor, just like expressing and just going and just like the whole
Absolutely.
bar or wherever you at, or just like, wow, check out this person, you know?
Absolutely.
And I feel, I don't like to say it's a regret, but one of the things I would have loved to do earlier on would be to master an instrument. It's never too late. And the other one was,
Exactly.
33 years old now. I'm like, it'd be so cool to guitar or piano or whatever it is, just to
Mm,
bust out that incredible sound. And then the other one is to dance
absolutely.
and to move
Yeah.
to the rhythm. And so, yeah, this is a great reminder. So by the end of it, am I going to be like Michael Jackson, or is it going to be like my own style of Michael Jackson?
Yeah, I don't want you to be like Michael Jackson. That's the
Mm,
whole point of the course is
right.
the thing is people try so hard to kind of recreate something that, is beautiful, like absolutely, but there's only going to be one Michael Jackson, Doesn't matter how hard you try and look and imitate him. I know for me, I don't want to spend my whole life trying to be like someone else. But what I do want to give you is everything that's going to feel like, holy crap, I feel like confident enough to be my own dance teacher where I know how to choreograph my own moves. I know how to actually break down dance in a way where I feel like I'm connected to it and I have the musicality and the timing and the rhythm so that when a song comes on, I know how to interpret that song and express in a way that's going to captivate an audience a bit. And then it's in my flavor and my tone. Because if I just teach you like an Afro dance, like if I teach you crump or hip hop, that's great. But it's just that you're just stuck within that style. And so it's kind of like TD is a bit of it fits within all styles, yet it has no set style. It's a bit like one of the big inspirations for TD was Bruce Lee's Jeet Kune Do. Jeet Kune Do, I think I'm saying it right, but like Bruce Lee's martial arts style that he created, which was a lot around, it's none of these styles, but it's, you know what I mean, it fits within all styles. And it's really cool because he a lot of it was like, you know, it's almost like learn all these techniques to forget these techniques. And
Wow.
so
Wow.
I tried to take that I try to take that approach in TD as well, and yeah, I love hearing that. Like that's something we can totally do, and you know, I do online stuff and in person coaching and one on one. That was a lot of what I was doing on the sunny coast. But when we come back in Australia, we'll just do a little masterclass together and just jam out.
So good. How can people find this program, and how can people find you online?
Yeah, so it's Jackson Salas Kastilio, which is my name, which you can see here, or I'm sure Zach will post in the description. That's my social media handle for everything: Instagram, Facebook, my Spotify, where you can hear my rap music, my YouTube. And so there'll be a link there, and I'm sure we can put a link in the description of this video as well to the course and check it out.
So good. I will. I'll put the links all around these videos, shout you out on social media. This is so important. Anyone out there just who wants to dance and start expressing themselves. And I just see the value of this, not just in someone's own personal, um, I guess, confidence, which we're kind of tapping back into that inner confidence rather than modeling,
Mhm.
say, Michael Jackson or being someone that we're not. It's like really tapping into your authentic snowflakeness and awesomeness. Um,
Absolutely.
yeah, and so I see it in teams, I see it in families, I see it in couples, I see it in schools, I see it in um, co-working spaces. It's just be great. It's like, all right, guys, it's the dance hour, or it's the dance 15 minutes, let's go,
Yes.
just to bring that movement in there because it's we just live, and myself, I can just be so stuck, in this on the
Yes.
phone and the neck and the back and the or in the gym and lifting the same weights. We got to be more dynamic. So
Exactly.
sounds awesome. So
Yeah.
any final comments? We've covered so many amazing
Yes.
points from confidence
We have.
to men's group to rejection to
Yes.
to relationships to the
Yeah.
support and love from a female to your
Yeah.
course.
There's yeah, my final piece, if you're talking like on purpose, like what does it mean to be on purpose or living in your purpose? A great exercise that you could do right now today is just write a list of all the things that you're doing in a day. Like all the things you do on your average day, you know, if that's going to work, going to the gym, having conversations with my friends, watching a Netflix series, you know, brushing my teeth. Just write the whole shebang. Don't miss out on a beat. You could do in a day or a week. And then once you've done that list, go through and rate it 1 to 10. One being like, this is pretty stagnant. I'm pretty bored of this. It keeps me feeling you know, drained or uninspired or just like, man, all the way to 10. 10 is like, wow, I feel expanded. I feel like this has put me on my edge, maybe even a bit uncomfortable. I feel like I want to like I got some energy for this, or this is something that just brings a smile to my face, or I seem to have the motivation just naturally to do it, right? And so list from 1 to 10, go through that list. And I tell you, if you start to see that you have, you know, I don't know, maybe like 12 or 10 things on that list that are below 5, just once a week, just try and take something off that list that's below 5. And then once a week, add something that's a 10 for you. And just over time, you see what will happen is this kind of this alignment, this instead of it being action, it's inspired action. Instead of it being like, oh, I gotta show up for this thing, it's like I feel compelled to be here for this thing, right? And so you'll start to see over time if you just do that list, a bit of diligence, and you know, every month you rewrite the list and you see, holy frick, my life's like tens now. You know, I'm living like tens, maybe a couple of nines and eights in there. that's going to make a massive difference to your purpose, your sense of fulfillment, your sense of um, being driven, if you will, or feeling satisfied or at peace, right? Versus the ones or the below fives, which can really be a drain to your life force, can really start to bring you closer to death.
That's really practical. That's really practical. So a list of all the things you've done today, then rate them out of 10,
Yeah.
and anything under 5, slowly start to, or as quick as you can, either let them go
Yes.
or even like outsource them or like, yeah. And then your day
Outsource
just,
them.
yeah.
Yeah, outsource them, delete it, delegate it, outsource it, or like I said, just slowly wane off. You don't have to, strip 5 of them in a week because some of these things might be pretty, some of these things you could have been doing for many years. So just slowly wane off one a week and just
You said satisfied, peaceful, aligned. That's a powerful exercise. I love that. That's so good. Everyone, do that this week. Do that this week. Send a
yes,
screenshot to Jackson or my
yes.
tag us. I'd love to see that. And yeah, keep aligning. That is my one of my favorite words is alignment. And
Mhm.
alignment is our assignment, 100%. And that sounds like
Ah,
an
let's go.
amazing alignment assignment from there. I
That
want
is, if there's an AA, that is an AA, an alignment assignment right there.
Oh man, there's so many other
Uh,
things I wanted to chat about, but let's wrap it up. I want to chat about you next time we jump on, maybe chat about your rapping.
yes,
You've done a dance
yes.
course. Are you going to do a rap course?
Maybe it's something I'm getting more into. But yeah, there's lots of things there, and I think the you could say the challenge or the aspect I'm embracing, if you're talking about what's next, is
Mm.
I spent a lot of my early 20s, like I'm 26 now, so from 20 to 25, just dabbling in so many things, trying out so many things, throwing myself in a lot of different directions, and being like a sponge. And I think this like next kind of 5 to 10 years, I really want to look at what's my like handful of things, like my maybe 5 things I just want to go deep in and just stick to. And just like if you were to take a pencil and you just draw one deep, long line and it's got that dark shade to it versus a bunch of scribbles that are in a lighter shade. That's kind of what I'm at. I'm like, okay, how do I just distill and stick to just a couple of things. And I think, when you're younger, like 18 to 25, my advice would be not to just like hone in and just stick with this one thing your whole time. Like I would say, like, you're trying to get to know yourself a bit. You're trying to get to know what's out there. Spread your wings.
That's a really powerful image of the next part of your life. I can definitely contest. Yeah, and I would, what is it, Gary V? I think he's like 45 or something now. He's like, up until 20, just fuck it up, just go for it. Like,
Yeah,
it's like,
exactly.
and I think sometimes I put so much pressure on myself. I'm like, oh, I need to be perfect, or I need to have that thing that's
Yeah.
like, that pressure. So that's a great reminder to let that pressure off, and just experience.
Yes.
Just go for it. My favorite quote, one of my favorite quotes, which I feel most of society have wrong, is "Jack of all trades, master of none." You've heard of that?
Yes.
Jack of everything.
Yes. I've
Oh,
been told that.
if I do all these things, then I'm not going to be good at anything. But the real truth of it is Jack of all trades, master of one. And it's like getting that specialized knowledge. We do a mastermind for Think and Grow Rich, and one of the principles is specialized knowledge. And in
Hmm.
order to find the area of specialized knowledge, is what you're saying is like do a whole bunch of things to figure out what you want to do and what you don't like and what you do like, and then focus in on that five key points. So that's huge. Any last nuggets of wisdom before we wrap this up?
Yeah, just a shout out to Zach to putting this on, staying consistent with this. Guys, what this man is doing a lot. This man has many avenues. He's a very dedicated human, and I really see him like I respect this, like these ripple effects, these podcasts, whether it's hundreds and hundreds of people listening to one or two, it makes a difference. And to be able to come in here and interview people and to take the time out of your day to throw down in this way, to be in the arena, to have these kind of conversations, It's very meaningful and very aligned action. So I just wanted to thank you, brother. I see you.
Thank you, bro. Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, I would, yeah, receiving that. And I I believe, as I mentioned before, we are an example. So I'm just doing my best to be the best example I can be to the others, to inspire them. I think for a long time I was trying to change other people by like forcing things on people, and then I was like, well, I'm wanting to change others when I'm not really embodying what I'm coaching or what I'm telling them to do. Am I doing that? So I was like, let me just do it myself
Yes,
and do it to the best of my ability. And yeah, hopefully that can inspire other people. So appreciate you. Thanks, man. And thank you so much for your time. Love what you're doing. Can't wait to see
absolutely.
you. When are you coming back to Australia?
Yes.
Or what's your travel plans? You'll be
June. Are you gonna be in Australia in June?
I could be, or I might be going, yeah, possibly. So we'll have to catch up.
I'll let you know the big travel plans. That we're in a few different places. So yeah, we'll be in Quebec next, and then Austin, Texas, and then yeah, in Australia, and then back to Canada, and then Europe for the summer. So
Ah,
I'll fill you in on those
you're on it.
details.
You're on it. There's so many. Yeah, that one idea we had a few years ago, which was like getting you at a broth night or one of my events. I still want that's going to happen. It's going to
Yes.
align soon.
Yep.
Would love
I
to
will.
so yeah, I'll stay in touch with you about that. So everyone, get in touch with Jackson. Get do this program, and yeah, look forward to hearing all the results, and tag us in any results or any of these practices that you guys have been implementing to help you become more of a man on purpose. Thank you, everybody. Talk soon. Thanks for your time, brother. Much love.
Much love.